making a short video on how to create your own Gameboy Macro console. So obviously you need to start with a DS Lite system. This one's got a broken hinge, otherwise works perfectly fine. You also need a tri-wing screwdriver, a regular screwdriver, Phillips head, a soldering iron, tweezers, and that's required just to hold the surface mount resistor there. It's a 330 ohm, and solder. So the first step is obviously to take it apart. A little bit stuck from how old it is. The top two also take a regular Phillips head. And make sure you save all the screws, guys, because they'll come in handy later. But for this console, we're actually going to use a different shell that we've had fabricated, and that we'll be using as a giveaway. So the remainder of the screws are tri-wing, and don't forget the top one up here because that's regularly missed. Once you've undone all the screws, it's time to pry it apart. So generally, just get my finger in there, but you can also get a louver or something to put in there to open it up. And just gently pry it open. And you'll see the internals there. So just take off the trigger buttons. And then slowly disconnect everything and unscrew that last screw. You have to be pretty delicate when you're taking it apart. You don't damage any of the ribbon cables. And this is the part where you have to undo the top ribbon cable. We generally keep these parts, the top ones if they're working, for our DMG builds. But if you're just making a macro, obviously you don't need it. The next part in the process is to remove the LCD screen. So first there's the touchscreen ribbon cable on the rear here, so you have to lift the clip and gently remove it. It's a very tiny cable. And then on the front is the other part of the ribbon cable. So then you're pretty much left with a PCB. So the next part is to solder on the resistor. So by soldering on the resistor, when you turn the console, it believes that the top screen is connected and it powers up. So we'll show you how to do that shortly. So soldering on the resistor can be a little bit tricky if you're not good at soldering, but if you are persistent, you'll be able to get there. So we just use some thin solder, as you can see there, less than 1 millimeter. And we generally set our soldering iron to just below 300 degrees Celsius. So the points to solder are up here. So see where you see the P6? It's the 2 points below. It's this point here and this point here that have to be bridged with the resistor. So it's a 330 ohm resistor. So we'll go ahead and do that. And the reason, obviously, we need tweezers is to hold it in place because it is very tiny. And that's soldered in place now, guys. So next thing would be, we just generally do a quick test, put this LCD screen back on, just to see if it powers up. Just connected the screen back up, so we'll just temporarily hold the battery to the terminal and turn it on to see if it powers up. So that looks great. So the next step would be to remove the LCD screen again and to get the board prepared for the speakers. So the two speaker points for stereo is the ones here, SPLO and SPRO. So one's a left and one's a right, and we generally use point 1 here on the back where the earphone jack is as the earth wire. However, we're using a custom shell, so we'll be doing a little bit different this time, so we'll show you how we go. Let's see if that was successful. I'll temporarily just hold the battery in place just to see if it powers up. That looks fine. So then the next process is to remove the LCD screen again. And to get the board ready for the speakers. So there's 2 points on the PCB for the speakers. The first point is the SPLO and the second point is the SPRO. So generally when we create these consoles, you can mount the speakers on the spots here on the side, or if your game, remove the DS slot and we mount 2 speakers here. The earth point for the speakers is pin 1 on the earphone jack. So it depends what type of macro you're building is how you're gonna mount the speakers. We've got a custom shell for this project, so we'll show you a bit of that later on. The next step is to work on the front of the shell. So we generally cut this part off here, the old hinge, but I've seen people obviously add the cathode tube across here and save the other hinge. However, we prefer just to cut this off. We give this a light sand here for some grip and then use some body filler to go over, a Bondo. And this is where the most time consuming part of the build is. This will take hours of work to get this nice, flush and smooth. You can leave the 4 buttons if you'd like. Some people like to play single player DS games with the cartridge slot on top, but generally we fill those in. So just use Bondo to sand it over and over again to get a nice flush finish. Then we generally use primer filler to give it a couple of spray coats for any imperfections. Obviously then the clear coat, color coat, then the clear coat. So we do have a finished product over here that we created a while ago as an example. You'll be able to see the body filler on the rear there. However, like we said, for this project, we're using a custom shell as part of the giveaway. We've just completed this beautiful macro as part of the Christmas giveaway. It's got a specially CNC machine clear top shell. We want to give it that kind of nest look for a macro. We've added the red buttons, red trigger buttons at the top, and just an original black rear shell. So for part of the giveaway, you need to follow us, share this post, watch the video, and add a comment. And I'll randomly draw a winner, which you can send this out to anywhere in the world. If it's international, outside of Australia, there will be no battery included. If it's local, obviously we'll keep the battery. So I'll give you a taste of how it plays. We're just using a generic flash cartridge to test it with.